So let's do some dark purple through the airbrush. Because I want to be I want to be able to sketch in some of the highlights and such on this guy. I don't want him to look super smooth with the skin. We're just going to turn him kind of upside down. Want the shadow coming from this side. We'll do highlights from this side. So I don't want the shadow to come too far over on this side yet. I'm going to do a glow from that mushroom, I think. The light will come from his left, our right. Troll butt. Gonna be a lot of troll butt here, folks. So if you're not comfortable with troll butt, boy, it's gonna be rough on you here for a while. Now, let's think about this. We could, I just don't know. Part of me wants to go ahead and put the dark magenta on, because it will be easier for me to get it the way I want to here with the airbrush. And then we can just kind of go back in. If we do this part right, then we can go back in and maybe do less of a real wet blend and more of a like just take a mix of a skin tone and the dark magenta and put that over the top. Let's try that. Let's see if we can make that work. I did not intend to use the airbrush that much, so I'm probably going to have to go fill my water bottle. As a matter of fact, I know I'm going to have to go fill my water bottle. Zephyr, your largest project is a set of chaos chosen using nothing but Acryl. Awesome! From the primer to everything else as much as possible. That's great. The only exception being an oil wash. Nice, 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 nice. Glad to hear it. Hope you're enjoying it. All of our models are painted 100% with Pro Acryl. We even showed a neat alternative to oil washes that we are working on right now that are all acrylic but work very similar if going for that grimy kind of, I don't know if we want to call it grim dark, but that kind of grim dark look. Got an all water-based product I think we're going to be coming out with. It is super fun to use. Do I have that model here still? Kind of used it on here in a test way to get the dark shading done on the legs. No real purpose other than to put it on here and show you guys how it worked. I did it during stream. All right, let me go fill up my water bottle real quick. I shall return. Give me just a second. Oh, actually, I'll just fill it right here. Alaunera, am I butchering your name? I hope I'm not butchering your name. Just got the signature sets. Nice, 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 nice. They're being touted as some of our, or probably one of our heaviest hitting releases. Definitely from a perspective of community interest, they're one of our biggest releases ever. From a color perspective, every single color in that group of colors is fantastic. So you cannot go wrong picking up the Signature Series sets. There is not a single color in there that will leave you wanting. We're about to use the dark magenta, as a matter of fact. Ninjon's set, dark magenta. It is a very translucent single pigment magenta. So this particular pigment does not have a lot of opacity to it. You can't force it. But it is a fantastic color. So we're going to now do the kind of zenithal style, if you will. Still going to be fairly dark because we are going back down over black primer here, of course. Hold it out. Yep, Payne's Gray, fantastic. We've been using the heck out of Payne's Gray on our Blood Angels. Kind of the go-to shade color for that entire army so far. Start to build up our color. Again, not doing a lot other than color base here. I'd imagine just a dual colored base coat is all we're going for. Both of them are fairly dark colors. I'm not trying to do any kind of highlighting here. I just want one color to be the color that situates itself on the model for my highlight side, and the other color to be the color I build off of going into shadow. Purple and magenta work very well together. No, I'm not going to get any brighter out of this over black. The dark magenta is a true magenta. That's pretty good. Cool. Retro, what's going on? Yeah, the entirety of the Signature series are great. When you set 3 people down and start talking colors and how you use them and all of that, it was not only a very interesting conversation as we kind of dove into all of our painting styles and how we like to handle painting in general, down to the specifics of okay, this color is what I find myself using for this all the time. Color is what I use for this all the time. I for once didn't have to sit there and go, oh, but what if you did this? And oh, you could do this instead. And oh, this might be a neat way to go. It was always like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's give that a shot and see if we like it. And of course, the colors speak for themselves. Most of the colors in the set are either, tints or shades of other colors we had in the line that the guys found themselves having to mix. Or combo colors that they found themselves mixing from other lines or ours or whatever. Just working. Well, good to see you. Hope everybody's doing well. It is Thursday, Friday Eve, as we call it. Not too much more in this week. I'm ready for a weekend. How about you? I went out last night and played Digimans. I have to report, though, that my Digimans playing was curtailed by our wonderful employee, Jacob. who got me into Digimon. He he rope-a-doped me last night. Day before, I was asking, I was like, hey, so Wednesday, when you go play Digimon at the store, local store here, right down the street, literally, like not even 5 minutes away from the office. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so it's good turnout? He goes, yeah. He goes, it'll probably be light this week, because we've got, they just did Digimon Nationals. If you don't know Digimon, it's a card game, right? I know nothing about Digimon, so don't ask. I just like card games. So, we're sitting there and talking to him, and he's like, yeah. He goes, it'll probably be light. Won't be a lot of people because Nationals was just last weekend. He went. I think we spoke about it on stream. He got 111th, I think, 110th, 111th out of over 1,000 people. So he had a good performance at the Digiman's Nationals. So, but he didn't get a spot at Worlds or any of that. But he went to Nationals, played, came back, and this is the first store, not tournament, but store, whatever you call them, league night. And he said, it'd be a good time. We had fun. So I took my deck and followed him over there, and we went and we played. And we show up, and there's like, I don't know, 20 plus people. So everybody's there, right? And as soon as he found out that I was actually going to show up and play, he was like, oh, yeah, I get to just play my fun deck. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm just going to go, and everybody's going to be relaxed playing casual decks. It won't be, practice for Nationals. Not everybody's being serious about it. I can have fun as a new player. Dude, not only did he go talk to the manager of the store and get paired against me in the first round, but he brought his Nationals deck and absolutely smacked me around with it. Bastages. So I went 2-2. It was a 4-round deal, and I went 2-2. Stonewall, what compressor am I using? We're using a California Air compressor, and I don't know. It has 50 million numbers in the name. Chat is usually pretty good about knowing the link, or somebody in chat should be able to find the link. It's if you go to California Air Compressors to their quiet, ultra quiet series stuff, it's like a contractor's compressor for finish nailing in homes, like woodworkers. It's very small, compact. I say very small. It's not like a hobby compressor size small. It's got like a 1.6 or 2 gallon tank on it, something like that. It's a workhorse. We've had it forever, and it's very, very quiet. I love it. I love it. It's a good one. T. Schmid, we don't have that yet. Chat'll figure it out. T. Schmidt's usually the one that has the freaking thing. We need to make that command. We've said we've needed to make that command for, I don't know, 50 million years. All right, I said I didn't want to airbrush, and now's the reason why I didn't want to airbrush the second color on there, because now I'm going to need to figure out how to make that work. I wonder, though, let's just play around. If we, if I go ahead and get, like, dark flesh. I pulled dark flesh out here. I put some dark flesh out. Put some tan, or some shadow flesh out. Let's do shadow flesh. Punisher. The fact that you took time to type that out shows perseverance. Perseverance. That's it. T. Schmidt's got it. Oh, bastages, all of you. All right, instead of wet blending, we're just gonna mix up some dark flesh and purple. The same purple that I airbrushed onto the base black here. I'll just take that and mix it in with a flesh tone. Better zoom back. This will make this kind of mud colored tone. And we're going to put that right over top of the purple, leaving the base purple in the deepest recesses. And being kind of sketchy with how we're placing this on here. Not too wet. That works pretty good. Gonna let me keep that purple shadow going. Now I'll just keep mixing the two together. Like I said, when I do this, I'm worried less about blending and just more about placement of color. Meaning that I want to keep my darkest purples set in the right spot. So if I have a little bit of rough edge where this color lays into it, I'm okay with that. Both of these colors are about the same value. So the paint that I'm putting on here is really only going to be different in color, not in brightness, than what we already have as the purple. So for some of you, this may, if you ever try this kind of painting, it may be a little awkward for you because you're not going to see as much initial change in the model. Trust me, it's happening. And what it's doing is it's giving you that fundamental movement out of the shadows, which I've picked a, I don't want to say a unusual color. Purple shadows are great, right? But when you're not wanting to have the model be completely purple at the end of the day, you need to start migrating that color out of there into something similar. Plus, I also want a bunch of shadow here, right? So the more dark skin tone that I add, the more I start developing a flesh tone. I want kind of a, in my head for these guys, I've got kind of an uncanny valley human skin tone. Working up into something crazy around the shoulders and all the, what are these things called? Not mollusks. What are they? All this barnacles, right? It's all barnacle. All these barnacles that we've got on here. Try to move the skin tone to something different around all the areas where the barnacles are. Again, this color is really just built for the shadowed side of things, so I'm leaving the magenta alone where I can. Might get a little over brushing onto it. It's not a big deal. Did you miss anything important? Chat. Chat, help me. Did Mo miss anything important? I feel like the answer is always, of course you did. But only in a kind of a that'll teach you to go answer your phone calls kind of way. Let me rephrase. I'm back. You should now talk about important things. What important things you think I'm holding out on here? They don't tell me nothing around here. I think Jen's about to start into a scorched earth, loose lips, shink ships kind of mentality. She's not going to tell me anything here pretty soon. And the color that you're seeing me put on here is a combo of our dark purple and our dark flesh. Anywhere where I have that dark purple, I'm just going from the deepest spot of that purple up into the area where it hits with the magenta and putting this color in there. I don't want to leave anything that looks too pure purple, right? Got like this area where it starts swinging down into pure purple, and that's about as much of that purple base as I want to sit on its own anymore. Your colors are really, really good together, by the way. The only red, you got the starter set. The base set? Awesome. We'll love it. I guess I should say, I hope you love it. Getting there. Lots and lots of shine on here from that dark magenta. We shot it very, very thin, unfortunately. Starts to break that matte finish. Big chonky brush strokes with this number 6 will act almost like a dry brush. I'm just kind of attacking the model with the flat of the brush. Side, if you will. Second, we're going to go back and start doing this exact same thing, but from the opposite direction, coming from where the dark magenta is, back towards this color. Right. Well, we could probably almost dry brush this model. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We have very little left that is just pure purple, but you can see how we do fall into pure purple right at the shadow, like the cleft of his belly there gives us that purple right under the knee. Right, we get that kind of iridescent sheen of purple in the shadow where we want it. Then we've got this crazy purplish, fleshy, don't really know what to call that tone that we've got going on. Then we'll work back at that. From the magenta side, I need more dark flesh. And dark flesh is the color we're using as the base. We're mixing in the purple, and now the magenta will go into it a little bit. As well as shadow flesh. The idea being that I can take some magenta shadow flesh. This color winds up being what I want to see building up here. I don't worry too much about this area up here around all of the crazy doodads. Like I said, we're probably going to move our skin into some sort of a greenish, brownish, heavier skin tone feel up there. No, what? What? Jen says she's got something cool. What's cool? Oh, they got it set up. Oh, that's really good. Yeah, the whole booth.
Yeah.
Here, do it again. We'll give them a sneak peek. No, just do that. The new backdrop to our booth for Adepticon. That's pretty cool, eh? That's pretty cool. I think that looks really good. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm more surprised that that's where we used to store all of our paint bottles. Is the room that's standing in right now? That the guys got all that cleared out. It's a big room of our
understand what we've been doing here.
Big portion of our warehouse. This is 20 feet by 10 feet tall, and this is a big portion of our warehouse that it's set up in. I wanted them to make sure that the printing was right on. That was great, though.
It looks so. I walked in.
Sure.
Here.
Nice.
John.
Okay.
Carter.
Where'd he go? Oh, he got to like the doctor or something, right? Okay. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Oh. I say bye, Jen. Bye, Jen. Yeah. I mean, he has a key if he needs it, so. Shinobi, what's going on? Mr. Malev. How the hell you doing, buddy? In the big chill position, you is that like favorite chair chill? I'm very jealous if that's like I'm sitting here in my favorite chair, my favorite drink, using my favorite straw. Now I'm jealous. Even if you're not in your favorite chair right now, Malev, drinking your favorite drink with your favorite straw, I'm jealous because now I've created a vision of you being in your favorite chair, drinking your favorite drink with your favorite straw. And I won't be able to see past it now, right? So you can see it'd be very, I don't know how to call it, painterly. I don't know. You can see that I'm using very, very rough brush strokes. Don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me, right? Goal with this is just to start setting up my values and my base colors a little bit. And again, what we're doing right now is shadow flesh and dark magenta. Don't worry, blends come later. Big chonky, I don't know what you call this. Glaze coats. That's what we're doing. We're glaze coating instead of base coating right now. You start to see on that forearm what I'm doing. The feeling of a little bit of a light source here. We're using dark flesh and purple, shadow flesh and magenta, and then we'll start working up a skin tone out of it as we kind of start at the dark mix, which is that purple dark flesh, the magenta, which is the shadow flesh dark magenta. We kind of move those together and we get that coloring, and then we take the shadow flesh on its own, right, and the dark flesh on its own, and work highlights into both those areas. And then we take, whatever we want to highlight the shadow flesh with and whatever we want to highlight the dark flesh with, which winds up probably getting us into that world of like shadow flesh plus purple, right? And that's where we stop on the shadow side. Two relic blade models that have some killer fun blends. Your body can shut down now that stream's done. Did you guys raid and I missed it? You did! How come did it not yell at me, or was I too busy doing other things? Malev, I am sorry. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, raiders, by the way. Was I just too hung up in my own nonsense here? I know I wasn't telling fart jokes. Did it happen when I was showing off the new wall? Thank you for the raid, Malev. Sorry I missed it. Jen came in and interrupted my brain patterns. You start to see how we're building in color. The new signature sets unlock some goodies. They definitely did. Too good. Everybody's having a great Thursday. Oh boy, how about that? Got that join line there. That's pretty good work there. Hey, what? I may not redo the flesh up here. I kind of like the idea of this skin just kind of turning into all of this nonsense. I think we can create some really cool, almost nurgly effects if we do this right. All he's got on him is all this like cave fungus anyway, right? Any idea when the restock on brushes? So we're hoping later this month. I was saying early to mid March. It's more like mid to late March, I believe. But hang in there, it will happen. We, I know it's not a very good excuse, but we we wound up just selling through the last batch in a matter of like 2 weeks, and it was supposed to last us 4 months. So there's that. I can think of worse problems to have, but that ain't great. Out of color. Big old dollop of shadow flesh and another big dollop of dark magenta. And I am not caring. I don't know that I would say I would ever come in here and just mix this color up. When doing skin tones, especially, kind of like the variation that I'm getting from not, I might mix more magenta into it one time than the next, and more of the flesh tone in from one time to the next. And all of that gives a little bit of the nuance to skin that makes it come alive. I'm okay with that. Miyabi, you haven't painted in a while, but you could help. But you couldn't help buy the Ninja and Vinci sets because you love both those people? Well, everyone in the equation thanks you. And obviously, we hope that you get back to painting. They are wonderful colors. If any of the colors we make could inspire you in a way, it would be that set. They are ridiculously good. But I definitely get it. Been plenty of times in my life where not necessarily wanting to put forth as much effort into the painting. That's okay. Go ahead and start sketching a little bit of light over on like the knee over there. Same exact color, not changing any of my mix. I'm just going ahead and kind of lining out where some of the brightness, assuming that I got a little bit of light shining past his body coming over to this section would be. You can see what I'm trying to do now, right? You can get a flare or a feel of the little bit of dramatic lighting I want to create. But again, to give you an idea of what I'm doing, you know, we say a lot of times that I'm really just focused on placement of color. You can see my blends are absolutely non-existent. Right? You can see where I'm just kind of hammer handing the paint on here, right? Big, thick, chunky strokes. There's absolutely no intention of blends happening, right? You can see the big start and stop of my brush stroke there. I don't even care. It doesn't matter at this stage of the model that I'm doing that. Right? You can see the line right down the middle of the nose. Maybe we can, I don't know how good I'll be at this. Oh, maybe I'll just go back to this. Keep more of him in frame there. Again, if you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. You're painting the Dank Hold Trog Boss, or Trog. I think this is the Trog Boss. The Trogoth and Trog Boss. I don't know. Ain't a troll, damn it. And the idea with this troll to do some fun kind of cave iridescent lighting, maybe off the single big mushroom that's on his back, and he doesn't have a lot of mushrooms going on. The dang cold meant something else. Go see what's happening. Yeah, the goal with the way that I'm kind of sketching everything on here is to do just that, right? When you think about, if you have any kind of a knowledge of art, you'll know that an artist will kind of sketch their ideas out, right? And then that will lead to kind of the final concept. That's all we're doing here, right? We're sketching my ideas in light and color onto the model, right? With the idea being that we'll smooth all this out, add and subtract from the color as necessary as we go. But it lets me kind of work from a more, I don't know, I call this playing with color because I'm not having to, like, knuckle down and really make sense of it right now. I can just kind of say, oh, you know what? What if we do a little bit more here? And a lot of times when I'm doing this, I kind of err on the side of caution and I do less color in an area and then peel back and look at it and then add more and then peel back and look at it and add more, so that I'm never really stuck feeling like I could erase anything. Sometimes you get there though. So that's one of the reasons why I work with very thin colors right now. And I'm more kind of understanding of putting more layers on to get the sketch done than I would be otherwise. If we were just painting like normal, then I would probably be more interested in making sure I didn't have to come back and hit this same area on the knee 18 times. Okay, now we gotta do the back. Again, I'm just kind of starting in all of these areas where I can see just the dark magenta that we sprayed on. We weren't here for the beginning. We just used the airbrush and put dark purple into the shadows, dark magenta into the areas we were going to highlight. The reason for that is just so we have a good basis of color for what will be the shadows in all those areas. Even the upper area of this guy where the light is hitting more direct still has an opportunity for various shades of the color to pop in. So I wanted that to be focused mainly with the magenta background, and then the darker side of the model really leaning into that purple as a base.
Hey, somebody likes us.
Berta, what is going on? So stoked for the end of the month to buy you the base set? Nice. Let's be honest, it'll be more. You have a problem. Well, we're just as excited as you are. We love it when people get to try the paints, get the sets, get creative, start making cool stuff. Constantly reevaluating as I do this how far I want to extend my colors. Obviously, this side's going to be mostly shadowed by the bulk of his torso, but it'll be a little light spilling over through here. And this is going to have a glow to it, like a turquoise glow underneath the mushroom. So we'll be re-highlighting all of this area, this side of the face where it looks like he's all in shadow right now anyway. Eventually. Tim, we love you for it, man. Thank you. Every single one of you guys and gals that gets excited for our stuff as much as we do are a blessing. Know that we appreciate and respect every single one of you. We're making an effort to help us out from the beginning. If it's your first time around here, welcome. We are Monument Hobbies. We make all these paints and brushes you see me using. It's no lie that we are a community-driven company. Everything we do is kind of guided by you, whether directly or indirectly, listening to the community here on stream and elsewhere, being able to listen to what you guys like, how you like it, helps us tremendously with not only product development, but how and where we go to market, all that kind of stuff. So you really do lead the way, whether you know it or not. Thank you very much. All right, I think this is still a good area for this color. Oh, my brush keeps getting so dry, but it does. Using a number 6. I'm actually using a number 6 artillery brush, for crying out loud. Sometimes you got to put the model down and remember before I highlight too much down there that his bulk swoops underneath very quickly there. So You didn't post a picture of the products you used for the challenge because it would have been about the whole paint rack. I know that one. I know that feeling. People ask me, what colors did you use on that model? I'm like, oh, they're not going to like this answer. They're not going to like the answer. Is all of them the right answer? Because I feel like all of them's the right answer. I know there wouldn't be a whole lot of shadow here, but I'm going to pick out just a whole lot of highlight here. We're going to do a little bit of highlight on the troll butt. Otherwise, it's not going to be near as interesting underneath here. I'm going to pick out a little bit of shine to the left of each cheek. Right? Even though that wouldn't be there because he has this ridiculous posture. Right? But if we do it correctly, we'll still fool the eye and make it think that it should be there. In order to make that really pull off, though, we probably need to do just a little bit of highlight down here, too. Pull from the... I like that. And also means we'll have to do something right here. Same way, just kind of taper it off. Most of the color up here. That pulls our light source down a little bit from where it would normally be. You know, if the light was really kind of coming at the model like this, there wouldn't be any of this. But if you want to lose the whole model in darkness, you can. And we may wind up darkening some of that back up. As you can tell, there wouldn't be a whole lot. If we are the light source, we can see all of this stuff very well. It would be as bright as it is. Right over here. Makes sense. Makes sense. Need to brighten this up down here a little bit. Down here. But nothing here. I am burning through Shadow Flush like nobody's business on this. How does the brush goop work? Like a champ. Oh, you probably meant like how to use it. It works amazingly. Seriously though, the brush group works by agitating it into the area where the bristles hit the metal of the ferrule. Typically, is the way you want to do that. I do it in the palm of my hand. You can see there's a video on our YouTube channel that goes over it pretty well. Probably an outtake here in the last couple of weeks of us doing it on the stream too. But basically taking a chunk of the brush soap, and then I do it in my hand here. So you get a chunk of the brush soap, and then you just kind of agitate the brush right at the point where the bristles go into the ferrule. You can see that dark line here, right? This brush has a lot of paint built up. Like when I bend it over, notice how it won't bend unless I pull it really hard. It won't bend down to the, well, it won't even bend down to the ferrule. See how these bristles won't even bend? Because that's filled with paint. So what that does is it causes a situation where my brush won't actually make a point, right? Like it's very blunt right now. Because what this paint does is it constricts all of that, right? So if I push hard enough, see, if I pinch hard enough, it splits, and you've seen brushes fork like that before. Because of all of this paint that's right down here. It's pulling all the bristles together very tight as the paint dries, and that's causing them to split and not be able to hold a point. So what you do with the brush soap is you get a little bit on the brush, or on a big brush like this, you get a lot, and then you put it in your hand, and you just agitate like this and rotate left and right, as you do it. And that drives soap up into this area here and gets all that gunk out of there. It'll break paint that's ages old out of there too, so. Great stuff. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Handmade by our resident unicorn, Jen. Nobody else's stuff comes close. All natural. Not only does it clean, it also helps to condition and reshape your brushes too, because it is a conditioner all in one. It's a magic bullet for dirty brushes. It must get goop now. Yeah, it really is amazing stuff. And it should last you a very, very long time. I know a lot of people that clean their brushes all the time won't get, as much life as lazy me. I don't clean near as much as I ought to. Pretty much only when chat asks me to show them how to clean a brush. But a tub of it'll last you a long time. That's pretty good. That's right. Don't eat the soap. Don't eat the soap. You're not supposed to eat the soap. Don't eat the paint. Eat the soap. Don't eat any of your hobby products, people. I know. I am Jason, enemy of fun. Do not eat your hobby products. Don't lick your brushes. Just don't, right? All right, so now we got to do the highlights in the dark area, right? Because here's our dark side, and we haven't really brought any of our highlights over there. It still looks like that dark flesh with purple that we set up. Over on this side, all we have is our brighter flesh, which is the magenta and the shadow flesh, and we're starting to take hold here. Zoom in a bit. Don't eat the paint. Please don't eat the paint. I love my napkin right now is pretty cool coloring. Like a Arizona sunset if we had a little bit more orange in it. Kind of a neat abstract paper towel art. You don't want to be part of the union. You don't want to be part of that union anyway. Trust me, you don't. You wash it down with your rinse cup. Oh my God. So not only do I eat the paint, but I also follow it with a nice big swig from my rinse cup. All right, so the idea here, I think, is just straight up dark flesh. Right? We did dark flesh and purple. And so now I'm thinking just dark flesh. Let's see how this feels as we do this. I think that's pretty good. That works. Again, we're just using the water on the brush, right? I'm a big proponent of not putting a bunch of stuff in your paint. Our paint is formulated to not have to put a bunch of crap in it, so you don't need a lot of medium or thinner or any of that. What I'm doing is I'm picking the area where my blend of that brighter flesh tone we just did with the magenta and the shadow flesh ends, and I'm stitching that into my darker purple is what I'm doing, right? So right here across the knee, just kind of take the dark flesh. Very thin. Dark Flesh has got a neat, ruddy, kind of almost rust coloring to it. So it will have enough red to feel like it should be part of this pinkish skin, but it's just our shadow. You see there on the belly, you can see the little island of magenta that we painted on there. As we brighten up the area around it with the Dark Flesh, right, that island of shine right there looks really good. And now we start getting a little bit of a blend, although I don't know how intentional I'm really doing that. It's just putting the color on the model right now. Same heavy-handed way of application that I did the other color. There's a huge cardboard box here, and it's all your fault. The new go bag is intense. Oh, did you just get it? T? Oh, I never know if people want me to use their first names, and I know some of you by your first name, so I stutter step sometimes because I'm like, oh hey, oh wait. I don't want to do away with all the purple up underneath the knee, but on the top of the knee, I do the Dark Flesh. And this is just Dark Flesh by itself here, guys. Right? And you can very lightly over the top edge of where this is, right? Just kind of take the brush and kind of do it right over the edge and then back into the purple here and then back towards the area there. And you'll get that kind of blended area where the skin color comes together. And to give you an idea, what I'm doing here is, the Dark Flesh about like that. You can see the other lines of color through it. But it still has enough pigment that it's actually going to make color hit the model, right? Thank you for that follow. Just a second. I like that. And work that into the shadow on the other side, but leave this other side much darker with the purple on the inside of the leg. Fleet Ben, what's going on? Aside from the obvious of it being your product, would you recommend the Monument Airbrush for beginners for airbrushing? Definitely. One of the reasons that we did that deal with Grex is because I've been using that airbrush for years, and I've taught people how to use it, like Jen. Jen had never touched an airbrush in her life, and she's able to use them very easily. She doesn't airbrush a lot, but she was able to get a lot out of it on her first go with it. It's just a really, really good brush. Easy to break down, clean, all the stuff that you're going to need to do. Makes sense. So yeah, I have no problem recommending it to beginners. Again, down here where the shadow of the club is going to go over the foot, I'll do more of the dark flesh across so that really the only magenta color is out here at the very tips of the toes. All of this under here will get that dark flesh glazed over the top. It'll still make it brighter. Right. We're trying to pull our light into this area here. Mainly here. But I like what it's doing on the top of his thigh there, too. Yeah, I don't know. You could always check California Air Compressors and see if they have a dealer locator for Canada. You know, I'd like to hope they do, but no telling. We are definitely glazing now. I haven't really called it that, but we are taking this dark skin tone and getting it to mesh in really nice with everything by doing it very thin, which is glazing. Albeit, you'll see I'm only doing like 1 or 2 layers of the color in most areas, and that's by design. I don't like worrying about having to do 50 layers of glaze if I don't have to. Usually 1 kind of base layer of glazing will work to get you comfortable where you're putting the color. And then come back after that with a little bit heavier, more pigment. Don't thin it quite as much. Second layer, and that'll get you that final punch of color. Assuming that's what you're glazing for, is to get mix. You may not want a huge punch of colors. You may not even need that second layer if you just want it to be a real translucent. Tight blend. Might have brought that darkness a little too high over the top of here, but I'm happy with it. Mind that. Tell, hey, it's that guy who does that thing on the internet with the paints and that little war dollies. Hey, it's it is a me. What's going on, Tell? Good to see you.
Well, huzzah, huzzah! I'll just throw back my legs and pollute my breeches with delight.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. How many months is that, Tell? 68. A hero by anyone's definition right there, putting up with me for 68 months. I don't even think that's possible. You could teach Jen a thing or two. I don't even think Jen's been around for 68 months. Now that you finally have the Pro Acryl base set, they're at least all going to have a great paint job. All your minis? That's awesome. I like that. I like that positivity and mindset right there. Do a little finger smudge blending back in that area. Slowly but surely, we're getting color. Feel of flesh on this guy. I zoom in tight, you'll be able to see how my blends are starting to come together, although just from the glazing alone, I'm smoothing out. You remember that hard line that was on the nose? That's starting to smooth out. It's now moved over to this side, though, so I kind of need to do a little bit of that right there. Right, we're starting to be a little bit smoother looking in areas like this. Starting to look like flesh where maybe we've got the veining underneath the skin. So again, using big, painterly artistic brushstrokes and putting that kind of texture on your model early can make flesh look really, really cool, right? Like let's see back here, you can see the messy brushstrokes still before we glaze on top of it. Very inconsistent. The kind of thing that normally if you painted your model, you'd be like, oh, I suck, right? Because it just isn't what we go for all the time. It's very heavy-handed. It's very loose. It's spotty. We call this cloudiness, where I've got various levels of the base layer showing through, right? I don't have a very consistent top coat. I got big chonky spots where a bright color hits a darker color like that. All of that plays right into skin. Because like you see here, that looks like belly skin, right? It looks like the veining, right, from the inconsistent brushstrokes. It looks like we have veining under the skin there. It plays really, really well for the feel of, especially on a troll like this guy. Right. A lot of times there's a method to the madness, and making sure that you have all of these kind of techniques available to you is what's going to make painting different things like skin and fur and armor, totally different. In painting our blood angels, totally different process, right? Because we want things to look nice and smooth, and we're not trying for big chunky veins in the belly kind of feel. So being able to do a totally different application on this and realize that, hey, every time I pick up the brush, I don't have to do the same thing with it that I did last time. Sometimes I can just be way far open and more uncontrolled and get really good results out of it. Tends to work. Just knowing when to use them is the part you got to focus on. All right, so again, up here on the knuckles, do a quick glaze pass that puts the dark flesh over to the left side of our highlight there. Hit it with pass 2 where we have a little bit more pigment in it. This is the ugliest blood angel I've ever seen. Yeah, I know, right? He's had a rough day. The fight has not been so good to him this time around. Not gonna lie. Mo, is that a gambler reference? Are you busting out some Kenny Rogers on us right now? It could be. Like that the club in his right hand is so pointy at the bottom. Looks like he's getting ready to stake a giant vampire. Like here? Or, oh, here? I don't know what the hell this guy's doing. This model can be made like 3 or 4 different ways, I think. Right? This one is one that I inherited from a... I say inherited. I traded a bunch of skeletons for this. When I say a bunch, I think it was like 60, 90. I don't remember. Some ridiculous amount of skeletons or Soulblight Gravelords for a whole bunch of Spider Riders and Trolls. And this guy was part of that trade. The thirst. Oh, yeah, definitely not vampirism. There's no vampires in 40K. And you can do this on much smaller models. For those of you maybe just joining us or wondering what the hell I'm doing, you can do this process on much smaller models to the same effect and much quicker, obviously. Smudge with my finger gets that blend going a little bit better. My sunset paper towel look is not as great as it was a minute ago. With the advent of dark flesh on it, it's now starting to look a little bit like poop. The dark flesh gives us a really nice warmth over that magenta when we want it. Back of that knee there. Everybody poops. You read that someplace? That was a book. But anyway, what's happening? How are you on this lovely Thursday? Everybody is having a great day. Hope your week is coming to an end in the best way imaginable. Low pressure, high value. Maybe you got some fun stuff planned for the weekend. Anybody got anything really cool going on this weekend? Try to finish Mortarian. Nice. Nice big old model. I've never finished mine, so good on you. Painting in Dungeons and Dragons. Love to hear it. I think we tend to venture back to the RPG conversation, and me. It's a weird thing, right? Because I have a belief that RPGs are really cool, and I would really like them. I never do them. I never do them. I have in my brain this feeling that, oh yeah, we'd all sit around, we'd have the best time, we'd have the best party interactions, and it would be great. And that's just not the way it works. It could be the way it works. When I hear about groups that have had the same world building experience going for like 40 years, 20 years, I'm like so jealous. I'm like, if I had that group of friends, I know I'd be good for that. All right, so now we've got this kind of bronzy skin coming in. We've still got a really nice, deep kind of purplish through here, right? Because this is where no light is really hitting. So we've brought our brown around from this way, but we've never really layered it in heavy right down from the bottom of the arm and the hand through the rib cage and down this side of the leg. A little bit down here, but most of where we're seeing the brown pop in heavy is over here, more towards our highlights. At the back of his arm yet, did I? Headed to your sister's nephew is in a stage performance of The Addams Family. He's playing Gomez. Oh my God, Tell. I read Tell's first. You should give him a hand. That's what he needs. Oh, Tell. So good. So good. Oh, Tell. I love it. Can I use the Pro Acryl G&W medium with the wet blending to keep the mix from drying? Yes, you sure can. That's one of the great things that it's good for. Don't use a whole lot, right? Because it'll perhaps thin your colors to the point where you're not happy with them, right? But yes, you most certainly can. And it is great for that. Glaze wash medium is a little bit of a drying retarder to it. Also some surfactant, so it acts as a little bit of a flow improver. Well, so when going through and wet blending, it can be a godsend for you as you're learning wet blending especially. Really digging that dark flesh over the more magenta skin tones we've got building up. Now, when we go back and start doing the shadow flesh on all of this highlight stuff, start pulling this lighting back on. We've lost a little bit of our intensity over here on this arm because it's so skinny, and I've just been kind of bashing paint around. Zero, 2, or 4 size workhorse brushes. Yeah, it's like you pick the Uncle Adams set. As soon as it's back in stock, I would say yes. The Uncle Adams favorite brush set that we do is fantastic. That's the sizing that I use a number 1, a 2, and a 4 for the bulk of what I do. I use a number 6 like I'm using right now for bigger stuff. But our Pro Synthetics are what's in the Uncle Adams set, and they either work very, very well. I think you would be very happy. Unfortunately, everything but maybe the number 6 is out of stock right now. We're hoping for later this month to have all of our brushes out of production and back in stock. I almost want a dry brush now. You know, we're going so quick with this guy. I say quick. It may not be quick for everybody, but we're actually moving pretty quick here. Let's get some shadow flesh. And let's just do like a real light kind of focused dry brush. I don't mean bang the crap out of the model with a dry brush. I mean take our domed number 1, right, our DD1 brush, and really just kind of focus down, get it a little damp, right? You know what I'm talking about. This is a DD1 Pro Synthetic. Small, domed, not really domed because I've been beating the crap out of it. It's a good dry brush. And we're going to take that and just really focus in on getting very little paint onto the model. Very specific spots. We're going to get the brush a little damp, right? So here, let me show you what I'm going to do. We get the brush damp. Before I put any paint on it, I'm just going to kind of get myself an area here where I'm... Then I'm going to poke it over in the paint, come right back over to the damp area on the paper here. Okay. And should be able to just kind of this should allow us to do is, while not going too much brighter than the base that we have, I'm going to do what you never do when dry brushing and continue to get the brush wet here. It should blend a little bit of our roughness out. This was the color that we were mixing with the dark magenta, or dark magenta. And so we're not going to be creating a lot of value brightness-wise here. But by keeping the brush a little wet when I do this and just focusing in here, I am going to be able to kind of move this right over the area I just created where the brown hits. Just make sure I blend that a little bit. I use it as a stitching tool, if you will. I have this area on top of the nose, right? If I can zoom in and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. You can see how the darkness has kind of come over to the side. If I can do a couple of passes with the dry brush here, I should be able, keeping that a little wet, get that line to blend back a little bit on the nose. Very subtle. I'm not using this to dry brush technically. The dry brushing is the technique we're using, right? But we're not doing it for the same reason that we think of dry brushing. I'm not as interested in catching, ridges and highlights and things like that. I guess we could dry brush the highlights on him too, but the main idea being that you can use the dry brush as kind of a, I don't want to call it a glazing tool because it's not really what's happening here, but it is kinda. By keeping the dry brush thin or wet, you're thinning the paint more than you would normally. So that as you go over the model, yeah, you're picking up the high spots, but you're doing it with a much thinner paint. not giving you as much texture as a dry brush would normally. Just kind of helps bring all your coloring together. Again, I'm just going to keep doing this till I'm satisfied. Definitely more of a smudge brush technique that we're going for right now. You're going to try to get your LGS to start carrying Pro Acryl. How do you convince them? It's a tough question. I have a lot of tongue-in-cheek answers. The stores that we find do the best with the product are the ones that, number one, have a really good relationship with the community that paints, right? They don't just have paint because they have to in order to carry Warhammer, which, if you don't know, that's one of the stipulations for a store that carries GW, is that it has to carry Citadel paints or it can't get the line. So, there are some stores that just carry what they have to or what they feel like they have to be able to sell miniatures. They might just carry Citadel, maybe some Army Painter, things like that. And those guys aren't always a great fit. The ones that are, though, are the ones that have a community of painters like yourself who are hyped about better quality paints and, are excited about painting with them and talking about them and keeping the community fired up, and that there's a community of people there that are, interested in that. So your area better than I do. If your store is that, then generally it's pretty easy. You get them to contact us. We have, depending on the location they're in, we have everything from like sample kits we send out to get stores on board. If they're like, hey, I'd like to give it to my main staff painter, let him play with it, see what he thinks, that kind of stuff. We always want people to feel comfortable with the quality meeting their needs before they dive in and really commit. But the reality is, if they like making money on paint, then they should be using us. Make better margin, have happier customers long term. We have most people that have our paint say that they really only need us and, you know, a line like Citadel. Citadel is a great line for getting people comfortable with miniature wargaming because it goes right hand in hand with the models they're buying. So you can't deny that. Army Painter, also very beginner friendly because of cost. That's an area that really needed it. It was right there on those knuckles. This helps blend stuff a little bit better. Again, you know, we're using some techniques here that are not standard for the type of painting we're doing, maybe. If that even means anything. But that can do a lot of work for you. You know, blending back these couple of small muscle areas here real quick without getting a lot of residue. Kind of hard to do this on this particular model because he has so many of these damn texture things, right? The barnacles keep grabbing the brush, so the brush doesn't get to hit the surface I really want it to in a lot of cases, but that looks pretty good. Smoothed a lot of things out. Troll! Mikey Vengeance, what's going on? Yeah, I think GW, when they made the character trolls and the big boss trolls, and they went away from just having I mean, for a long time, it was just the rock guts or whatever. There were stone trolls, we called them, and swamp trolls or river trolls, right? That were puking on you. I think you had swamp, river. Forge World had the big nasty troll hag, right? All right, I'm going to take some beige red, and we're going to do the same thing with beige red now. May have a Forge World troll someplace. I don't remember. There used to also be like a male version of a bigger troll, like a troll chieftain or something like that. Does anybody remember this thing? Your LGS are amazing people and do everything they can for the community. That's awesome. Yeah, if they do painting classes and stuff, then, you know. Juicy said, is it difficult for Canadian stores to restock Pro Acryl? Have them contact Warp Speed Distribution. Warp Speed Distribution. Cody at Warp Speed is fantastic. He'll take care of them. Yeah, our Canadian distributor will get them going, get them all details. He is the stocking point for the Great White North. He handles all of the major import stuff. And once he gets a feel for, what their volume and orders looks like, then he can adjust his own ordering to compensate and get them what they need for sure. It ain't tough. Now we are going to get more of that edging feel. Zoom in some here. Right, so now we're starting to catch highlights with the dry brush. The dry brush, I'm still doing it fairly damp, but check out that face. So, like I said, unlike other dry brushing that you'll do, you'll want to get the brush clean, between every few passes so that the color you're putting on the model isn't, simply super dry catching edges. It gets you the ability to do a little bit more blended color with it. Isn't going to make the skin look chalky. Going to give us a nice highlight. And I'm kind of stabbing and pulling at the time I'm doing this. I'm not just dragging it across a surface. I'm kind of punching the model and then pulling. Everything else is pretty much the same as normal dry brushing, though. Right? Notice how I get a blended brightness on that knee rather than just an edge along the end of it. That's all just because I'm keeping the brush damp. Still wiping it off on my paper towel. Nothing new, nothing fancy. Just each time I go over, here, let's do it. I go over, I put the brush in the water, bring it back over, poke it on the paper towel, let the paper towel soak most of the water, go get some paint, come back to that same spot on the paper towel where I poked the water and get most of the paint off of it, right? Then we go over to the model. I usually hit it on my finger a couple times just to make sure I got any of the big, disastrous blobs of paper towel or anything gone. I can even kind of smudge along there on the belly. Anything up around the top of the neck here, just kind of smudging it and pulling it once it hits the model. Kind of Tap and pull. Nutrimentor watched 3 consecutive streams and sparked a what? A watch streak? The heck kind of nonsense is going on here? Nutra, what are you doing? He's like, I don't even know. Twitch just said I did a thing. Twitch just told me I did the thing. This is beige red. Beige red, not red gray. Remember, there is also a red gray. But yeah, you are correct. Giving us that little bit of punch in the highlights. I'm using it more like a normal, brush in terms of like where I'm placing things. I'm not just doing like the whole length of the arm. Pick out where your highlights go. You're starting to be able to see the purples, the magentas, right? The dark flesh tones. All of those colors start to pop the more you get contrast on the model, right? And we're still going to smooth this out too. So even if you were doing this for the first time and you felt like you were putting too much texture on the model, don't sweat it too much. We're going to come back and be able to smooth all of this out. We may do it with the airbrush just to keep it going with the idea of getting things done quick. Airbrush is one of your best smoothing tools available. Even take the same color over on our shadowed side. tie some highlights in there too. Need more beige red, but this is the color we're using. It's a color that sits really nicely between shadow flesh and tan flesh. Dark magenta is very much so a translucent paint. It is not opaque like the other colors. That pigment is very, very translucent. Yeah, you're not losing your mind, and you didn't get a bad bottle of paint. It was a color that we thought long and hard about making it transparent, but because it came out in the signature sets, we didn't want to confuse people by having a transparent in there. I guess we could have looking back, but yeah, you shook the hell out of it. Yeah. Yeah, it is. That single pigment magenta is a color that is not going to be opaque ever. Most pigments aren't opaque, believe it or not. The way you get to opaque colors is you add in whites and blacks, generally, the base pigment. And that'll get you more opacity. But of course, adding white and black to a color will desaturate it. And as you desaturate the color, you're not going to have the same vibrancy. Starting to look pretty good. I'm actually very glad we decided to do this with dry brush here at the end. Gets us a lot quicker result. And you can see how this version of, I guess you'd call it underpainting. It's not really, not in the way that we do it normally, where I take, greens and reds and yellows and blues and purples and such and put it on the model first, then glaze skin tones over. Here we started in the realm of skin tone and just shaded those tones. With the purple and the magenta, right? We didn't really use any greens, obviously, but we took the purple and the shadows, mix that with the dark flesh. The dark magenta we were just talking about. And the side we knew we wanted highlighted, and mix that with the shadow flesh. And it gives us a very different and pronounced shadow with the purple and the dark flesh, right? That still works very, very well as we swing into the shadow flesh, because the shadow flesh and the dark flesh would be natural progressions in a triad. You would go dark flesh, shadow flesh, beige, red, tan flesh maybe, right? But here we've done dark flesh and purple as our shadow color, so we get a really neat shadow, right? The purple gives us a really neat nuance to that dark side of the model. And then as we move over, we're now into a different base. We're no longer purple underneath, we're dark magenta underneath, and then dark magenta and shadow flesh. So the base layer starts a little bit brighter, but a very similar and complementary color to the purple, right? Then we start mixing the brighter flesh tones on, and we get a really nice transition through all of our skin tones. Right? And from our highlight side, we get bright pink, kind of pale, sunless flesh. It has the purple and the magentas, giving it the feel of blood underneath the skin. And in the shadows, we've got that nice, not black, not gray, still a skin tone, but gives us a lot of contrast on the model. No, T. Schmidt, I announced that we'd be doing it tomorrow in Discord. I think I said most likely, but that's my goal, is to do it tomorrow. Starting to give us kind of an albino flare. If I kept going brighter than this, we could probably get to like a really cool albino flesh tone, but I don't want to sink much more of our darker skin if I don't have to. Arm up here. Need more color. Silverhand, what's going on? You're driving through my old stomping grounds, Bethlehem, the ABE. Feel afraid to admit it, but you're using jade and dark jade for the first time, and these paints are so damn fun to wet blend with. What? Yes, I am surprised. Just not gonna lie. A newbie to Jade is hard to find, especially when you've been around the line for so long. But the Jades are fantastic, aren't they? Yeah, and dark blue, like Tim is saying. Dark blue, dark gray blue is also a great one. Hard to do my kind of swirly, smudgy motion right there. That damn mushroom, but got it. Like I said, don't be afraid to use the exact same color once the brush doesn't have a whole lot of paint on it. Come over into your shadows and pick out a little detail. Guy doesn't have a whole lot going on the skin. He's got a couple of spots where you can get some work done. What's up, Rhino? All your must-do Adepticon projects are done? What? Wait a minute. That's way too soon, Rhino. Not allowable. I cry foul. Must have hired help. Cheater. I like it.